everyone. It is Ellen from Advocate of Soul podcast. And as many of you know, I love to bring guests on who have stories, who share their messages, share their light, and have something to contribute in the world. I really believe that a lot of time our human stories get lost and, they get overshadowed by so many different things. But this is what it's all about, right? We're all humans on this journey. And a lot of times we can learn a lot from what other people are sharing. Today, my guest, Catherine Proctor, is just a wonderful, wonderful soul, a wonderful writer, just very talented in many different ways, but she brings a very unique light. And I really felt like I wanted to bring her on. We ended up meeting each other over a project that we were doing together. And ever since then, I've just been like really impressed with her level of integrity, her character, her ability just to be a straight shooter and call things as they are. So, Catherine Proctor, I want to thank you for being here today.
Wow, thank you. What an introduction. I'm thinking, are you really speaking about me? Anyway, it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you as well. I'm a great fan and I love your honesty as well and your directness and your willingness to help anybody who needs help. I love that and I thank you for that. So yeah, my name's Catherine. And Ellen and I met some time ago on a project that we shared together. I'm here just to probably talk a little bit about myself, about a book that I've written, and general life and how life goes, and to send out a powerful message. I have a powerful message, and I'll tell you the message right now, and you'll hear me say it again at the end. Whatever happened to you as a child, as a young person, as an adolescent, it was not your fault, and you must not blame yourself. You were an innocent victim. And that's something that I personally live by or learned very late on in life. And after a lot of soul searching and I suppose therapy, my therapy came when I wrote my book. The book was I had to dig so deep to get everything out. But once I started, I didn't know when to stop. It was amazing. So I'll take you back a little bit. The book is here and I love it. I just love the cover of it. It's just amazing. And the book's called 12 Words. And there's a story behind it becoming 12 Words, getting that name. When I was young, I did have a very chaotic, very traumatic childhood and I went through some, quite unpleasant experiences. By the time I was 13, I was actually roaming around the streets just as I felt like to roam around the streets because nobody had control of me. I was wild, but I was wild not because you're wild for reasons and I was wild because there was never any love, any nurturing there for me. And there was a long time that I did blame my mum, and I blame my mum for a lot of things that happened in my life. And it's only, I think, over the last couple of years, and I suppose since the book got published because it caused such a storm in the family that nobody speaks to me anymore. But that's okay. I told my truth, and I'm glad I've done it. That I started to realize that it wasn't her fault either. She was a single parent. I was one of five, and she was bringing us up and struggling, and just her own mental health issues that all them years ago, and we're talking a lot of years now, I'm very old, that people didn't acknowledge mental health. You were either normal or you were mad, and that was it. There was kind of nothing else. So obviously, if you're a single mum struggling to bring up five kids on your own and going out to work, she used to work in a pub and we'd get left on our own and we'd get in fights and trouble and split heads and I burnt my brother once and there's a lot of things that happened and because of my chaotic life and my chaotic childhood, I blamed her for a long time. But now I can understand that she had her own issues going on. Anyway, yeah, by the time I was 13, I'd run away. I'd started to run away from home all the time, lived there. We didn't get on, to be fair, and we still don't, but we don't speak at all now. But I found that, I'd be drinking cider. I hated the cider, but I loved the buzz. So I'd just drink it till I got that kick. And then I know that, and then I know later on I'd feel sick. And that went on, and you just do that. You go out with your friends, go to school, start to play truant from school, go shoplifting, all the things that, we were termed as juvenile delinquents, and I suppose that's what we were, or that's what I was. I don't know. I don't believe in labeling, anymore. However, I did find myself in a children's home, and I almost insisted on going in that children's home or being taken away from my home. And I lived in the children's homes run by nuns. And I can tell it was probably two of the happiest years of that early stage of my life, because we had this beautiful mansion we lived in. We all had our beautiful bedrooms, and I met some amazing people. Like my friend Christine, she was found, it was all children with problems, obviously, when the children's home. She was found on a croft in a pram, wrapped in newspaper with a sister, two sisters. And we had another girl. She used it, Maria, and her mum just abandoned her and went back to Czechoslovakia. And Maria used to go out shoplifting every weekend for us, because we wanted to be trendy. And she'd go and get shoplift clothes, and then we'd pay her for them. But she did it because she wanted to save the money to go to Czechoslovakia and look for her mum. I mean, the stories of those people was, when I look back now, was phenomenal of myself. Anyway, I had a great time and I loved it. And I used to go
Can
out.
I interject? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
So when you were at the children's home, did you did you feel a level of freedom and security there that you didn't when you were at your mom's home?
yeah, definitely. You felt security. It was run by nuns, and
Okay.
um, and so the nuns were as nuns are, but they were not, like, some of them were dead friendly, and every day you got fed in the morning, in the afternoon, and and your rooms was lovely and clean, your washing was clean. But I think one of the things was to meet these other girls that also had problems that wasn't their fault. And I felt a
Mhm.
part of them. I think I felt included. So I think that was a big thing. But on the downside of the home was that, I mean, it was great. I went to college and I was working, and because I was school at 15, and the downside was that you could tell the nuns anything. So I used to tell the nuns that I was staying at my friends at the weekends, but really, and this is when we go back, if we have time, you'll understand how the book came about. Really, I was hanging out around the streets in Manchester. I was 15, going to bars, going to clubs, sofa surfing, going to nightclubs that were open till 6 in the morning. Just hanging out with some not very kind people. And I suppose there's a couple of, yeah, I had some very bad experiences there. One of them was, and there was a chap. Oh my God, he was so handsome. And I mean, seriously, and everybody. And he was so cool.
Hmm.
And it was just everything. And we used to laugh at him. He'd never speak to us. Anyway, he did. Came over. Oh, it's 4 or 5 in the morning. We've just finished at this nightclub. It was shut. And we just had one of these, like, you could get what's known as, like, these West Indian patties. And they were curry patties. Oh my God, they were fabulous. So we always, when we came out of that nightclub, Squalamino, we'd go there and we'd get one of these patties. So we stuff it in our faces. We have not, me and my friend Margaret,
Oh,
we have now got nowhere to stay for the night. So we'd hang out around the streets, or we'd find what was known as a blues bar, something, but we always stuck together. We didn't mind. We were street wise and we were tough. So
mhm.
anyway, so he comes over and chat, chat. Oh, hi girls, what you? Oh, I'm like, oh my God. And my friend's like, oh yes, chat, chat, chat. And he said, oh, what you doing? And we said, oh, just chilling, just chilling at
Mhm.
4 or 5
Of
in the
course,
morning. And he
yes.
said, oh, so anyway, he invites us back to his place. Now I'm looking at this guy. He's king. He's so handsome. He's untouchable. He invites us back. I mean, we had conversations, and so
Hmm.
so we did kind of cross each other's paths and that. So, we felt all right. So, we get to his house, which I thought would have been, quite a cool pad. It was like something from Soweto, a ghetto. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
wow.
Yeah.
So as we get there, start to feel a bit nervous. And he opens the door and I looked at my friend. And he pushes me in. And he slammed the door and he'd locked my friend out. And so obviously then you get scared, don't you? And I got
Yes.
scared. And he lived upstairs, so he was putting me upstairs, making me walk up. He was strong, and I'm literally a kid, 15, maybe
Hmm.
16,
Hmm.
and he's making me go upstairs anyway. I'm like from someone who was probably relatively drunk from the alcohol, and they all smoked weed in this club. I've never smoked, never done drugs, and never done anything. What you get, it keeps you high, especially if you've already been drinking. So I suppose it's like passive, but it was quite nice feeling. I'm telling you, I sobered up, and he opens the door, he pushed me in. And this is a hard story and a hard story for people to listen to. So I won't go into too much graphic detail because,
Hmm.
I don't want people to feel upset. And sometimes, I don't know now, sometimes, when I talk about it, it still upsets me. But anyway, he pushed me in, and as soon as we got in, he starts to become very aggressive, takes his coat off, not telling me to get my clothes off. And of course, I won't. And I'm just saying to him, just let me go, come on, just let me go downstairs. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to say anything. And I'm thinking, where's my friend? I don't know where she is. Won't let me go. He's got a whip. So he's now trying to tell me to get my clothes off. And of course I won't. And I am tough, I'm streetwise. And he's like hitting me and fighting me and punching me. And he eventually grabs me. And eventually, he manages to get my clothes off. And he does, he does rape me. It was horrific. And then a short time later, he gets up and he's got the whip and he's whipping me. And I'm stood up and I'm naked. And as he's telling me, jump, whip. And um, and so, it was the whole thing. It went on for days. And one day he left.
Mm. Mm.
I locked the door and I thought, where's he gone? You just become.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know if I don't even know whether it's one day, 5 days, 3 days. But all I remembered when I'd walked in the room that day, there was an ironing board, and I remember there being an iron on the ironing board. And he got dressed up in all his bling, and he'd said to me, when I come back, you'll be ready. You're going out on the street, to earn money for me." I saw the iron and this tiny little window and it's damp and it was horrible. And I was just there, I was just panicking. I was like, well, what are you going to do? And then I heard the door. I thought, you're getting out. And I
Mm.
jumped to the window. And the window was just a small window. So I've got one foot on the window and he was laughing. He came over, but I'd flicked the iron on. And I'd said to him, he grabbed me and I put the iron on and said, if you come near me, it's going in your face. And it would have done.
Mhm.
He let me go, dropped the iron, jumped down onto a wall, jumped over a gate and ran. And I ran and ran and ran. And you know what? I never told a soul. Never told anybody, not even my friend. And at that time, I was I was out of the children's home. I was in another, like a halfway house. And because I hadn't been home for 3 days, they chucked me out on the street there and then. So I couldn't come home. And you don't tell people these things. And I'm not the only person this has happened to by any means.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this roaming around the streets and this letting people treat you with such disrespect. And you think, you can't say anything. Do you know why? I couldn't say anything because at that time, the area that I was in was an area of ethnic minority. So it was mainly Afro-Caribbean, West Indian, and I was a white girl, tiny white girl. And if you, as a white person back in them days, a young white girl went to the police, they'd laugh in your face. They'd say, well,
Mm.
shouldn't have gone there. They'd tell you you're white trash and you
Mm.
shouldn't have gone there and it's your own fault. So you grow up with that feeling
Mhm.
inside of your stomach and it doesn't go until you start to talk about it. And the reason I left the home was, well, I just left. Social worker came for me. She took me to a foster home. And that's another, this is quite an unpleasant story, but I just said, I'd been living in the foster home. I've always worked, so I was working, going to work every day. I didn't get on with the woman. I used to just go out and drink, or I always used to drink, and I'd just get drunk and come. Anyway, one day she said to me, "It's not working out. You're gonna have to go." So I went back to my mum's. Um, so mum and I, had that relationship. It wasn't good, and she'd have a lot going on in her life anyway. So I'm there one day. And I said to my mum, I've really bad pain. I'm really not well. I've been up all night. So my mum jumps out of bed and she calls an ambulance and she sorts out my two young brothers from the house and she takes me to the hospital. And I remember hearing noises but not seeing faces. And when I woke up, after, I've got a drip and, there's all this echoing noises from the hospitals. I think, God, what's happened? Why am I here?
Mhm.
So nurse came in and she went, "Oh, how are you awake?" So just said, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, we're sorry, but we couldn't save the baby." I was like, "Well, what do you mean you couldn't save the baby? Have I had a baby?" And she said, "Yeah, we didn't save it." And I knew I was having a baby, but it was completely
Mhm.
blank. Nobody
Mhm.
spoke about it. Not my mum, not my social worker. Nobody, absolutely nobody. There's one lady that had made a friend at my job, and she used to take me to her house. And her mum was a seamstress, and her mum used to. She said she made me a pair of trousers, dusty pink trousers. They were lovely. I'll never forget it. But she put buttons in them, in the top of them, and she put buttons she knew, and she put them buttons so that the trousers could grow with me. She didn't ask me because she knew that it was a taboo subject. Her daughter didn't know.
Mhm.
Nobody, it was never spoken about. So when I said to the nurse, well, I actually said to the nurse, "Oh well, I was going to have it adopted anyway," just like that. Like that's how callous and how cold it was. Just going,
Mhm.
oh. And she went, "Oh well, that's good then. You've had a lucky escape." You know, I mean, why would you say someone, even
Oh,
like you wouldn't look at someone and think this is a young kid who
yeah.
clearly lives a traumatic life and you're telling them,
Wow. The disconnect. The
yeah, that
disconnect.
absolutely, yeah. Did it? I kind of like it's a long story and it's quite graphic, so and I don't want to go into too much detail, but I kind of just thought, no, well, okay, yeah, you've had an hour escape, and I just eventually left the hospital, went home. Mum never spoke about it. The midwife came because I'd got an infection in my womb. My
Mm.
boobs were massive, and she gave me tons of Epsom salts. And you know what? I lived my life with that inside of me. Never said a word again. Just never said a word. Just went on. But I went on in this life where I was always in trouble. I was always in danger. My partners were always 20 years,
Mm.
30 years, one of them older than me. One was a real predator and he used to
Mm.
beat the life out of me. The father of my children, a jealous man, a man who he was 18 years my senior as well. And it was like I used to put myself into those situations and I believe that I felt that's all I was worth. I wasn't
Yes.
worth anything else. Just
Yes.
worth, just nothing. You just roll on. Nobody's really bothered about you. Look at what you've done in your life. Look at
Mm.
the things that you've let happen. And it wasn't until was burying my brother. I was in the cemetery a couple of days beforehand. I was walking and I'd seen this headstone, and it still upsets me now. And I saw the headstone and read it, and it said on the headstone, she was born asleep. Now it still upsets me, so I'll take a breath.
Yeah. Yeah. Take a breath. You're doing really well.
And that's when I realized that's what happened to me. I had a child who was born asleep and nobody spoke about her. And I think from that day was the first time I acknowledged her existence, and I cried for her 42 years after she was born. 42 years after she was born, I acknowledged a child that, I never saw her face, her eyes, her nose, never felt her breath, nothing. Always blamed myself. And I think it was from then that I started to think, do you know what, Catherine? Because there's all kinds of horrendous things that have happened, in
Hmm.
between that.
Hmm.
What to myself, do you know what, Catherine? You need to look deeper. You need to look at what you're holding inside of you. What is making you always go for the wrong people,
Mm.
roll around like tumbleweed. Um, why do you do it? Look inside. And I started to really look inside. And I mean, to be fair, I've got three daughters and I brought them up. They're all lovely, and I brought them up. I've always had wonderful jobs. I sell property. I've lived all over, I've lived in lots of different countries. I've had a great life in so many
Mm.
ways.
Hmm.
But I've had a great life. Um, But I always, all that time, when I was traveling, bringing the girls up, doing stuff with the girls, mixing with middle class, whatever, I always felt like there was something missing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like I was just kind of almost like what do you call it, preposterous, like
Mm.
not not real and not living a real life.
Hmm.
And it was after that, that once I started to realize that, I started to go back and regress and look at all the things that happened in my childhood. There's some terrible things happened in my childhood, terrible. And then all the things that happened when I was in school. And one day I hadn't been in school for 6 weeks because my sister had gone to Ireland for 6 weeks, and I just stayed at school. I went into school and people thought I was a new girl. I was told the teacher, a male teacher, said to me, stand on the, oh, if you've been away for so long, you must know, you must have learnt something. Stand on the desk and recite your 8 times table. Who recites your 8 times table? I was 10, 9. And every time I got one wrong, he'd make me twirl, slap me across the legs. Now, yeah, now that time that happened to me, obviously we just cracked on with it. But that teacher years later got struck off
Oh,
for,
yeah, I imagine so. You know, it's interesting.
yeah,
I don't know how old you are, Catherine, but I know when I was in elementary school and middle school, some of the stuff that teachers got away with, some of the stuff that people got away with in terms of discipline, or we're trying to, you know, help the child. Today, it would be seen completely and utterly as abuse. Like it would be seen as whether it be emotional abuse or physical abuse, verbal abuse, and they would call a spade a spade. But back then, it was just like, well, this is what you do. You know, this is how we discipline. This is how we handle it. Um,
yeah,
and I don't think we're fully, I mean, if you look at us as a society, I don't think we have even understood levels of trauma, and we're still learning all of that and we're unpacking all of that. But my goodness, when you were saying your story, I thought, oh, I can relate to different things in your
yeah,
story.
yeah. And I mean, there's so many things that happen in school, I mean, I was once dragged out by the hair of my head by the headmistress and put on the path. Now, fair enough, I'd done something very naughty, but who who gives
Mm,
somebody the right to be physically abusive to anyone? And the lower down you were in the pecking order as class, and we were right down there. The worse you got treated. the worse you were treated, the lack of respect was, and
Hmm.
even I see it even now from time to time. I see it with adults.
Hmm.
With other adults and children, adults. How they might behave to someone else's child if they feel that they're not as good as them. What a load of
Hmm.
crap, class situation, and we're all the same at the end of the day. We're all human beings. None of us are different from the other. We've all got skin. We all breathe and we all go to the loo. We're all the same, and yet you still have that. And whilst you still got that, you're creating trauma anyway. You create a lot of trauma. So, um, what I did was, I will go back to the Reno Club now. So there was a big thing in Manchester. The Reno Club itself has become iconic in Manchester. So it was in a house in a place called Moss Side, and it was a ghetto. When you went down the stairs to it, and it was in the cellar. I was over till about 5 in the morning. Music was banging. It was just. I mean, I mostly go. Music is my savior. Music is what I'm most passionate about. I love music, soul music, and so one of the girls who used to go there, I mean, she's a poet and an artist and a playwright. She decided to have the excavated, so it was dug up. So the land where the house had been knocked down flat, but obviously then you've got the ground, haven't you? So
Yes.
underneath the ground was the cellar, which is where the Reno was. So that got dug up. So that was epic. I mean, it's a huge thing in
Oh my
Manchester.
gosh.
So I kind of got a little bit involved in that just because of my connection with the club, and I went there for a long time. Then they had a big party on the actual field where it was now a field, but it used to be full of terrace houses one night. Started at 9 and finished at 9. 9 at night, 9 in the morning. And it was just epic, all the music, original DJs, and it was just a really big thing. But that same person, she then decided to set up a writing group. So she put a post out on Facebook and asked if anybody might like to join. And I kept seeing it, like every week, and I
Oh,
kept
I
thinking,
understand.
yeah, I kept thinking you should join, Catherine. And then I thought I'd done a lot of work on myself by this point. I was in quite a comfortable place with myself.
And I
And
was actually going to ask you that, if I can just interject for a second. I was going to ask you about your healing process. What did that look like? I mean, did you go to a therapist? Did you do it on your own? What did this look like for you?
I didn't go to a therapist, no. So the biggest healing, which is coming, was writing the book.
Yep. Okay.
Without shadow of a doubt, it's the biggest healing. But after understanding, some of the things that happened to me and understanding that they were not my fault, I started to read a lot,
Mm.
understand how the mind works, understand what trauma. I didn't know about trauma. I didn't know about the word.
Yep.
It's like I knew word trauma. I knew
Yeah.
trauma in a road accident or something like that. But yeah, so I started to read a lot. I also started to go to it was a British military fitness, but it was an outdoor fitness boot camp.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. It was amazing for your soul, your body, your mind,
Mm.
everything. Whoever thought that? I always think like that. Who would have thought someone like me could actually go out and achieve something? It was massive achievement. I went for years. And everything. It didn't matter what the weather was like. It was snowing. It was raining. It was beaming hot. You went and you did it. You used to go 3 or 4 times a week out in the park. And again, I met another group of marvelous people, but
Mm.
people who were probably, I don't know if they tell. I've got a couple of friends from there. Pretty well-adjusted people and people that had that I could start to look at and understand and think, well, you can be like that, Catherine. You
Mm.
can have that inner confidence, not just because I'm a very confident person
Mm-hmm.
on the outside. I'm a salesperson
Mm-hmm.
and I've sold all my life, and you've got to be confident to sell. And I'm a survivor,
Hmm.
100% survivor, and I've brought three children up, and to bring
Hmm.
them up to who they are today, you have to be able to survive.
Hmm.
When you had no money to pay the bills, you had to understand how where you were going to find that money from, what you were going to do. They never knew how poor we were. I had a good job, but we didn't have money because, I had to pay for everything myself. Their father never paid for anything. When I left him, he just said, well, that's fine. When you leave, I won't be giving you anything. He never did. And he was an officer in the Merchant Navy, fellow of
Hmm.
society, they say. Bully. Anyway,
I
yeah,
think
so that,
too, I think too, you when you talk about this fitness, I've, been studying a little bit more about this, but it's moving your that trauma through the body too. You were, this book I read called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's probably one of the most profound books I ever read because, your big toe's hurting, but you don't realize that it could be related to an emotional something that happened back over here, but it's just a big toe. It just keeps hurting. What is that? And as I began to read that, I began to understand, wow, how much trauma is stored in the body, how much you must have stored in your body. And so that fitness was like a gateway, really, for you to begin shedding the layers and letting go of that, which just only increased even more confidence in you and probably helped you even work through some of the stuff you had around fear and shame and all these different things that you were able to get rid of it within your body, if that's
yeah,
fair to
you're
say.
right. And even now, I still do, I do yoga.
That's
Um,
great.
I do yoga every day, and but I set I walk every day as well, and I'll do between an hour and a half walk every day. And what I notice is that all the aches and pains that I used to have, because you do even when you walk, you get pain in your back, pain in your leg, pain in
Mm-hmm.
your toe. But it's all that trauma in your body that it's shedding itself. I totally agree with that. I totally agree, and I think exercise, however that exercise looks to you, is a healer. I really
Yes.
do because it's so good for your mind. It's so good for your self-esteem. So I'm lucky that I live quite near forest as well, so I go walking every day and
Oh,
I
that's
love that
lovely.
nature. That is so nice. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So that back to the Reno thing, and yeah, after that, when she decided to do the writing group, after 3 or 4 weeks, that's gone. I just thought, do you know what? Just go. You were a member of that club. Just go. So I thought we'd be just gonna like write a little bit, and she's gonna teach us how to write. And I didn't know we was gonna write a book. Had no idea, but we ended up writing a book. She had a method of teaching, a method in which she wrote by, and it was literally, the method was 12 words, hence the name of the book. So 12 words was after every session, we would then be asked to pick something, first thing you see. So now I've seen that mouse, so I picked mouse, right? Okay, and then you've got to write 12 words that would attain into the mouse. But you would end up digressing, because I'd look at the mouse and I'd go red, and then I might write dress because I've got a red dress, and then you might
Yes.
write mini, and so you have to come up. So you'd end up with 12 words. Those 12 words have to form part of your chapter every single week. So every week you did a new one, and what it did was, it really works. What it does, makes you focus. One, you've got to use them 12 words. So you know that when you're writing, you can't finish until you've done it. And second, it's almost like it's your task for the week. Okay, you've got to set yourself an hour and a half each week,
Mm.
sit down
Mm.
with your music, with your candle, whatever it is, and write and include them words. And what I did was, I'd do, like, on a Sunday evening, I'd have my music on, I'd have my lamp on, it'd be quiet, be nice, and I'd get my book out, start to write. I'd just write one chapter, nothing more. But I wouldn't stop till I'd written it all. And you're not allowed to go back and change it. And honestly, it's amazing. And all the whole book, there's three of us who wrote that book, and that whole book was written like that. And every chapter, what we'd do is we'd go on the Tuesday, we'd all meet up at the gallery, and each of us would read our chapter. We'd usually end up crying because it was
Yeah.
always trauma involved. And some of the stuff that
Mm,
the other girls went through as well. And we'd end up, but funny as well. There's fun. We see the humor in it, and that's what we did, and that's how it all came about. I used to drive home from there, mostly crying. I'd get
yeah.
in, and I'd have to open a bottle of wine, and I'd drink the wine. And I used to have this song called "Fire and Desire," absolutely. And I used to play it all the way home, 30 miles. I'd get into the house and I'd play it because it was such a passionate
Yeah.
song. And it was so relatable to me. And then eventually I'd finish the bottle of wine, finish the crying, dust myself up, make a chips butty and a cup of tea and go to bed. Next day start again. But it was absolutely therapy. There's no two ways about it. It was complete therapy. And we had like a big book launch in Manchester at Waterstones. And we did a
Mm.
big thing at Manchester Central Library. But I think that helped me a lot. And then I've done other projects now since that, and now I look at me now and who I am. And I know I've come a long way. And one of the things I always wanted to do as a young person was be a writer. I wanted to almost be a poet, really. And I used to be like Clive James. Do you know Clive James?
No, I don't.
Oh my God. So he's an author, a TV presenter, um, a columnist. He's dead now anyway. He's from Australia. But Clive James, look him up. He was a really intellectual, very funny man as well. He
Mm.
did some great, things. Not with the normal expected education. So didn't have that, but he became a real, he became a real academic. He's written some fabulous poetry books, and I always thought to myself, you know what, I could do that. I can do that. And I was
Mm.
obsessed with him anyway. So watch him. And, I look at it now, I look at myself and I think, well, you have written, I'm in the process of doing a biography for someone. So a quite well-known figure in Manchester, a broadcaster,
Wow.
music, very well known in Manchester. And I'm writing his biography simply because he read my book. He read my chapters in the book, 12 words. And he came to me and he asked me he just said, I love the way you've written it, Catherine. And also, it's so raw and it's so honest. Would you do my biography? What an honor like sometimes I think to myself,
Absolutely.
a little scrote like me who's gonna do these things. But you know, that's what I mean. People that are listening, girls that are listening, boys that are listening. I was physically abused, mentally abused. I was beaten, I was robbed, I was treated badly. But in all those times, yeah, I did think it was my fault, but it's not. And it won't be your fault, and it's not your fault. And you can
Mm.
I learn from me, understand that if you want to do something, you can do it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. And now I'm a person that I'm very kind to myself. And I'm not ashamed to say I actually love who I am because I know I'm kind, I know I care, I know I wouldn't deliberately hurt anyone, but I know I've seen so much of life from many, many different angles that I know I can understand and accept that everybody has a story and we're all different and we're all individuals. And I even look now with my grandchildren and I look at them and I think anything, I'll hold your hand. I'll still confidence in you, let you know how beautiful you are, how clever you are, how wonderful you are. It doesn't matter if you haven't kept up with the other kids in your class, or if you're brighter than the other kids in your class. You're loved and you're cared for, and one day you'll be able to do whatever it is you want to do. And I think that's a very powerful thing to give to children, to give to make sure that they understand that they're loved and they're cared for,
Mm. Mhm.
more than any academic qualification or anything else you can give to them. So I do that. I look after my grandson a lot. He spends a lot of time with me, and we just love each other. And I just fill him with hope, and yeah. And as I say, I'm very happy, and I'd like other people that have felt the way I felt. I like to think one day they can stand up and say the same as me. What happened to you was not your fault.
How did you, if you don't mind me interjecting here, how did you come to that realization that it just wasn't your fault? Like how did you come to that? Because I can hear people saying, "That's great, Catherine. I'd really love to know that." But but how did you come to that?
So I think you've really got to dig deep. You've
Yeah.
really got to
Yeah.
go back deep, deep, deep into your own psyche. And you almost like a tick box.
Okay.
You've got to drag something out that you've
Mm.
been hiding and holding. And you've got to deal with it. You've got to take it out of that box. Stop living two lives. Because that's what I did effectively.
Mm.
I had two lives. I had the life where I was bringing up my daughters, and we were living this, nice life with girls going to school. I had all these friends, well, um, and we had a nice life. There's no two ways about it. And as I say, I've travelled all over the world because I sell property, and I used to sell overseas property for years. And I've met wonderful, amazing
Hmm.
people, and I've
Hmm.
had amazing people in my life. And all the time when I had all these people, I used to think, I wonder why they bother with you. I wonder why this. What are you? Yeah, that's how I felt. I
Yeah.
felt like
Yeah.
that. I was well into my
Yeah.
40s. I have a
Hmm.
friend, Yasmin, she's so gorgeous and so, she's just, she's so intelligent and kind and caring, and everybody loves her. But her and I became very close. We worked together. And I used to think, I wonder why. She's friends with me. We're friends now
Hmm.
for 20 odd years,
Mm.
and we've spoken about it. But that's the thing. I think you've got to go back. You have to go back, and you have to take everything that's in out, and you've got to systematically go through it. So how that might look to some people is therapy. Go
Hmm.
to therapy, and that's fine. Um, go do what go to the outside running. Just do it yourself. Talk to other people. Write a book. Even if your book's not published, just write. Just
Yes.
write things down how you feel. Talk, if you can, to the people that created that inside of you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what happened to me was created by people that I was surrounded by. So
Hmm.
it's talking to them. They don't like it,
Hmm.
and they'll get angry, and they'll deny it. And that's okay, because you've seen all of that
Hmm.
helps you to understand that no, it's not your fault, because they can't even sit now and have a conversation with you and
Hmm.
say, well, it was A, B, or C, because they don't want to face it. They don't want to see it. So I think that was one of the ways. And then obviously, I think the book was massive.
Yep.
Writing that book, there's 18 chapters in that book, and each one tells a completely different story. And it's quite grueling. And writing it was hard. But every time I finished a chapter, I felt a little more weight was removed, and I
Hmm.
felt better. And each time I read a chapter, I felt better.
Hmm.
And eventually I got to a point where it made me feel not ashamed anymore. And I think that's the thing. It's not easy. It's taken
Yes.
years and years and years for
Yes.
me to get to there, and it hasn't been an easy road. And I'm not. It'll always rear its head. To me, there'll always be things that'll pop up. So but it's just learning to deal with them now. And obviously, I'm much older, So, and I have a different mindset. And having gone through all of that, I can, with my yoga helps a lot. Deep, my breath work. It's just taking care of your mind, really, isn't it? And
Yes,
we
yes.
don't do taking care of yourself, which we don't do, and so some people never take care of themselves. And I
Mhm.
don't mean washing
Right.
themselves and in their hair.
I'm understanding.
I mean, you just don't take care of yourself. And if you don't, you're never going to heal. And a lot of people never heal. A lot of people I know have not healed and won't heal because they don't want to take that first step. They
Mhm.
don't, even like in families, they'll know. I would say my own family, they know what I wrote is correct. And but they won't they wouldn't admit to that. They wouldn't go, do you know what? You are right. And let's
Mm.
see, I think about my mum. I think she's 90 this year. And she never read the book, but she has been told bits and bobs.
Mhm.
And I think, how can you have an opinion about something that you've never read? And how can you decide that I'm wrong and you're right over something that you've never, ever taken the time to discuss with me, or at least taken the time to read the book? I mean, there are
Yes.
things in there that, she wouldn't like. There are things in there a lot of people wouldn't like, but if it was somebody had written the book in my family, I would pick it up and read it
Mhm.
before,
Mhm.
but so they're unhealed people, they're people that they don't see any wrong or anything. It's just everything's under what we ever say in Persian love. And I think that's how I did it. But we're all different. And I've
Okay.
surrounded myself now just people that are good in my life, no bad people.
I I just want to say first off that you have said something that I've been waiting for a guest to say for a very, very long time. And I've just been waiting. I just interview people. I enjoy doing this and hearing people's journeys and honoring the story. I want to say first that, I honor your story. I honor your journey. But you said something that was very telling, and it was, this is not an easy process. It wasn't overnight for you. You didn't just suddenly wake up one day, have some spiritual revelation, and be like,
No.
I'm suddenly healed. No, you actually had to dig deep and go back into it again and relive some of that. I mean, when you're writing, I know I'm writing my autobiography right now. It takes you back into things, and you're just like, oh yeah, and you begin to feel it, and all of these things. And so I I want to say that it's your process and your journey that I find so needed today because people want the quick fix. We're such
Yeah,
a microwave society. I'm gonna put my life in the microwave 1 minute. I'll deal with the burning for 1 minute, then I'll
yeah,
pull myself back out. And I love how
yeah.
you say that's not reality. And that wasn't your journey. And I'm not discounting that people can't have some really spectacular things happen because we all have, you have. But it's come from a process of doing the work, going deep, saying yes to the shit. I'm going to go deep here and I'm going to look at it. And so I want to say I honor you with that. Thank you. I have
Thank
been
you.
waiting. I can't begin to tell you how many guests I've been waiting to hear
No way.
say that. Yes. Yes. Um you've unpacked it in a way that it says to me that you've understood even just your healing process.
Hmm.
Because I will always ask, well,
Uh-huh.
how did you get from here to there? And sometimes people just, well, then it happened. And then, okay, great. I'm hearing you, I'm understanding, but what did it look like? What are the
Yeah,
ins and outs? And you're able to connect with it because you went to some places that forced a connection.
yeah, yeah.
And that's
And there
powerful.
was
And I want to
so
say
much.
thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I thought when I was coming on, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna be dead nervous and I won't say anything, but I haven't shut up really, have
No, you're
I?
great. You're great. I really just I'm honoring you, Catherine. What an
Thank
incredible
you.
story.
Thank
What
you.
an incredible life-giving message. And and I love that you kept saying it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. And oh, that those oh. I'm sorry. I'm just like I'm moved. I'm sitting here
No,
moved
thank
by
you.
what you've shared. It's precious. Those are pearls.
Thank you. Thank you. But that
Is
is
there any
my
last minute things you'd like to say before you tell me a little bit where we can find your book and all of that?
I think we spoke a lot, but I don't like to focus on things that I like to focus on the fact that I'm here, I'm happy,
Yes.
I love my life, and now I love the rich tapestry that my life has been through. It's been so colourful, and I've come out of it the person I am now, and I'm strong, and I think that's very important. I think every time we have something in our life that doesn't go right, don't think my life's perfect by any means, it certainly isn't, but it's understanding how to deal with it, isn't it? And not, I've never been bitter. Don't be bitter. Don't dwell on things. You know, digest them, dissect them,
Hmm.
understand and know that part now has happened, but you don't have to keep going back to it because it's gone.
Yes. Yes. It's
Um,
it's removing victim consciousness. That's how
yeah,
I look at this. You do
yeah,
not come across as a victim of your circumstances. You're not saying, "Oh, woe is me, poor is me, please give pity on me." You're not doing any of that. You've allowed yourself to have those feelings at points because that's all part of that journey, right? Then you realize,
yeah,
"Wait, I
yeah,
gotta I gotta do something different here. I gotta do something different." And that's a beautiful message to end on. In a world that just feels so like everybody's just like victims of things. And I want to say thank
yeah,
you. So
yeah.
where can
Thank you.
people, Catherine, find your book? Where if they're going to order it?
So we're on Amazon,
Okay.
obviously. I'm on Amazon. I'm on Waterstone, and the publishers Blue Moose. So he's a well-known publisher in indie, independent publisher in the Manchester area. So yeah, and then you'll find us around eBay. I think it's on eBay now, and where you find it. The book hasn't been publicised or pushed the way it should have been, for some personal reasons, not of mine. Um, and over the next few months, I'm going to pick that back up because
Good.
it does have a story to tell. It has a story to tell young people,
Yes.
not just mine, the other two stories in it as well. So
Beautiful.
I'm going to start, and that's why I'm grateful for you even having the time, for me to come on here today. And I'm going to start, to try and push myself out a little bit more. And I'm grateful that you've allowed me to come on. Thank you.
Well, it's been an honor on my end, like
Thank you.
completely. So thank you,
Thank,
Catherine, for being here.
yeah,
And
you will.
and for everybody who's listening, this is a book that you must get. And I'm saying must, because there's going to be lots of pearls of wisdom in it, lots of things that you'll resonate with. Some of you may even have had similar incidences, and there's just things to glean within it. So I'll be putting all the links for Catherine's book and just where you can find her and all of that in the show notes. But thank you again for being here on Advocate of Soul podcast.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, and thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
welcoming me. Bye.